Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I thought for a change of pace I would try to do a little bit of motovlogging. Most of my videos are about motorcycle installs, but when I'm out riding my bike I usually have all these different thoughts rattling around in my head, and I thought I'd share them with you guys and maybe get some engagement in the comments about your thoughts about whatever it is that I'm thinking about. So heading over the Coronado Bridge this morning into Coronado Island and then maybe over to Hotel Del. But the thought that I've been having is, well, first of all, I bought a couple of motorcycles recently. This Honda SCL500 that I'm riding right now, and then I bought a pretty beat up 2021 Honda Super Cub, which have already started fixing up and is already looking pretty good. I'm excited about that build. But I don't have a Super Sport in my garage at the moment. I recently sold my Ducati Panigale V2, which I hardly rode at all. It was a absolutely gorgeous bike, but one that I'll tell you, I'll go through the reasons why I didn't enjoy riding it. But lately I've been obsessed with the Kawasaki ZX4-RR motorcycle, and I think it'd be the perfect super sport for me, and to round out the different bikes that I have in the garage. A little bit of background on some of the bikes that I have had. So I've been riding big bikes maybe for 10 years at this point. My first bike was a Honda ZX4-RR, which I think had the same 471cc twin that the SCL500 has. Great bike to learn on, felt plenty powerful for me at the time. I upgraded that to the Honda CBR650R, which had a nice screaming inline 4 that felt more like a super sport but still had a very upright seating position. That became the 2019 Kawasaki ZX6R, which was a real super sport. I enjoy that bike. I think I learned more about riding on that bike than any other. I got that one to the track a few times and took different instruction on it and enjoyed that bike quite a bit. I don't know why that cop was looking at me so intently. I look like the most legit motorcyclist on this SCL500. Anyway, the Kawasaki was great, but as I get older, that aggressive riding position just became increasingly tough to enjoy, particularly around town and on rides like this. So I thought I'd get a more upright seated position bike, and that became the Yamaha XSR 900, which honestly I didn't end up riding much. That was my first leader bike, or close to a leader bike, and while the seating position was really comfortable, the engine was just too torquey for me. I even had the ECU tuned to try to smooth out that power band, but even in cruising gears, just the slightest throttle adjust, like twitch of the wrist, would get the bike really jerky, and it just was too much torque for the type of riding that I enjoy doing, again, particularly around town. So I sold that bike to a friend, and that was a beautiful bike. I put a lot of carbon fiber on it. My friend has since made it even more beautiful. But for some reason, as soon as I sold that, I started thinking about a super sport again, and that became the Ducati Panigale V2, which was absolutely gorgeous. But the challenge with that bike being that it was just not very fun to ride. For one, it was a little too tall for me. I think the standover height was like 32 inches, and I'm only about 5'7" and a half on a good day. The riding position was incredibly aggressive. I couldn't ride more than 30 minutes without my neck hurting, just trying to keep my helmet up, and there was a lot of weight on my wrists. It just wasn't fun to ride from that aspect. The exhaust routed underneath the seat, so it was just incredibly hot. If you weren't wearing race leathers, I mean, it was unbearable. I tried riding in shorts a couple times, and I mean, physically singeing the hairs off my legs. So just not a fun bike to ride, especially again for the type of riding that I'm doing. That's the kind of bike that should be on the track all the time, and for me it was just too expensive and nice of a bike to, and powerful of a bike for me and my riding capabilities on the track. So that ended up just sitting in the garage being eye candy for a long time, until I realized that I should probably get something that I'll actually enjoy riding, which is this SCL500, and have been enjoying it quite a bit. And this is a bike that I think I'll keep in the garage for quite a while, but I'm then now immediately getting that itch again for a super sport, and that's what's got my eye on the Kawasaki ZX4-RR. It just seems like such a niche bike. I haven't actually seen one on the road, but I've sat on a couple in the dealership, and for all of the reasons that I haven't liked sports bikes, some of the sports bikes that I've owned in the past, this one just checks off all of the boxes for me. The standover height is a lot lower. I think it's only about 30 inches, which is comparable to like the Grom, so you know, that's getting me near flat-footed. The seating position isn't as aggressive. The clip-ons aren't all the way down on the fork. They actually rise up an inch or two, so your body position is a little more upright. Definitely not as upright as a bike like this, but upright enough that you can ride for a lot longer with all that, without all that pressure on your wrists, and then without having to put as much work to keep your neck up. And I love the idea of like a micro super sport. Japan and the rest of the world seem to get all of these awesome inline fours that are 400cc or less. I've always loved their, I can't remember what it's called, the Honda CBR250RR, but just the idea of a screaming inline four that's smaller displacement, that you can ride closer to the limits. That's the thing for me. The ZX4-RR, I was never riding it close to the limit, nowhere near the limit for the Ducati Panigale V2, but the idea of having a bike that I can actually ride closer to the limit, like, I mean, that's why I love the Groms and the Minis, because I'm always riding those at the limit. So yeah, smaller displacement that you can ride and enjoy a little bit more. Also a bike then that I'd probably take to the track, because again, one, that I'm not as scared of it from a power perspective, and then the other big draw for me is just the fact that it's unique, being this inline four that's only 400cc. I like bikes that are different. Everybody has a 600cc bike or a liter bike. Just the idea of a slightly smaller packaged one, both because I think physically it would fit me better, but just the neatness of having something small, like all of the minis that I like to build and ride, just seems particularly appealing to me. And I want to get around this bus. Yeah, so they've been doing all this construction at Hotel Del here. It's been kind of covered up for a while, but I'm sure it'll look really nice when it's all finished. So again, just a bike that I keep thinking about, and I keep going to the dealership to check out. I travel a lot for work, and I always find new dealerships to go and sit on bikes and look at them and think about them. I was actually thinking about buying one on the East Coast because I've been spending so much time out there, but California sucks when it comes to emissions, and apparently motorcycles, especially bikes like that, are 49 state bikes, so they're legal in every state except California, and California has its own variant. It's California legal. So if I did buy one there, like in Maryland, that it would probably be difficult for me to get it titled here in California. So if I did get one, I'd have to actually get it titled here or purchased here in California, just to make it easy from a title perspective. Yeah, it's going to be hot today, but it's nice right now that it's a little overcast. We'll head down to Silver Strand Beach. It's nice. I don't know, I think it's like a 65-mile-an-hour strand that just goes in between. It's like this peninsula that has the coast on one side and the bay on the left. So the major drawback to the ZX4-RR is the price. Here in California, out the door is probably going to be close to $10,000, which seems like a lot to spend for a mini super sport motorcycle. I mean, you can get lots of 600 and, you know, get close to even some of the liter bikes for that price. The other thing is the insurance. I was thinking and hoping that since it's smaller displacement, that from an insurance perspective it'd be a little more reasonable, but for my current insurer, who I've got, I don't know, I think like 7 motorcycles and 3 cars through their insurance policy, they quoted me like $2,300 for a bike that's only $10,000 and only 400cc, which just seems insane. I shopped around for some other policies, and the best that I could find for that bike for full coverage was like $2,000. So if I did buy one, I would probably I would try to buy one used, and then just have the and not have full coverage on it, because without the full coverage then it's only $100 or $200 a month. But it's strange that such a small bike would have such a high premium. Full coverage on this bike I think is like $400 a year, which isn't, I mean, which makes sense, but yeah, anyway, from an insurance perspective, it wouldn't make sense to have full coverage, because in 4 years you would have paid for the whole bike in itself anyway. So anyway, let me know what you think about the ZX4-RR. Would love to hear from people that actually own one in the comments. There seems to be a lot of, I wouldn't call it controversy, but people seem to love or hate the idea. It's a pretty niche bike that appeals to, I think, a very small market, and that's why not too many manufacturers make them, because most, especially here in the United States, Americans aren't looking for, you know, that particular super sport with a with such a small engine, but I think it's super cool. Would love to know what you guys think about it. Also want to know what you guys think about me trying to motovlog. You know, usually when I'm talking to myself, I don't have to be too articulate, so I'm sure that's coming across as I'm talking with you guys this morning. But appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. Let me know what else you'd like me to ramble about potentially in future motovlogs. Hope you guys all have a great week. Stay tuned for more videos.